Hey, it's Andrew Klavan. You may remember if you watch these videos, we did one where the internet delivered something like the 24 or 25 top novels, and I then ranked them on a rating that goes from S, which I guess is supreme, superior. Somebody said S instead of A, and then you get A, B, C, D, no E, because there are no E's in Klavan, and then F. And that's what I will do. I'm going to rank what the internet says are the top 24, 25 movies, and I will tell you where they belong, because when I say it, we know it's true. I'm not just a machine. All right, let's find out what the internet says are the best movies ever. Number one, The Godfather, 1972, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. One of the great American movies, not just one of the great American movies, but possibly the last truly great American movies. Now, I don't use the word great easily. I mean, to me, a great film is a top tier film. This is an S, and absolutely in the top tier of movies. There's nothing else quite like it. It is, it's a myth. It's not an actual, if you want to see Goodfellas, you want to see the real mob, that's what they look like. The Godfather is a myth, but it is a myth, a brilliant myth with an actual thematic line about how good and evil are sort of turned upside down. It is absolutely terrific. And of course, it launched 1 million stars because all the acting in it is great. That's an S film. Casablanca, 1942, directed by Michael Curtis, but really just directed by itself, Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. That is the best American film ever made. There is no other one. Anybody who says it's Citizen Kane doesn't know anything about movies. They only know that they don't like conservative people. Casablanca is the greatest film ever made, and kind of a miraculous film. Greatest American film ever made. It is kind of a miraculous film because they hardly knew what they were doing as they wrote it. They didn't know where it was going to end. They didn't tell Ingrid Bergman what the end of it would be. She hardly knew how to act the part. But everybody in it is perfectly cast. Everybody in it is brilliant, and it breaks your heart. And it's elevating. It's a wonderfully elevating movie without being false, without being idealistic. It's an actual cynical look at mankind and shows that mankind can rise above itself and do something beautiful. It's a great film. The Shawshank Redemption. I'm going to get killed for this. Overrated film, directed by Frank Darabont. Not a bad movie, not at all a bad movie. I don't want to say it's a bad movie. I just think it's a false, kind of silly movie. The story on which it's based, which is something about Rita Hayworth, the Shawshank, something in Rita Hayworth. That's a very harsh story, full of terrible stuff. Stephen King, obviously. And the movie, I just have never understood why people love it so much. I would give it maybe a B-. You know, it's a good film. I would watch it again, but I just don't think it's a great film in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know why it's so loved. 12 Angry Men, directed by Sidney Lumet, kind of a liberal, stalwart. It's a good movie, a strong movie. It's dated. I've never thought it was one of the top. I would never have put it in the top 25 movies. I will give that all. I'm being kind of nice after they've dropped below A, because I really would have put The Shawshank Redemption as C, but C sounds mediocre. It's not. Shawshank is a good film. Angry Men is a good film. I would give this also a B. Star Wars. Episode 5. This is the second in the first trilogy, if I'm correct, right? It's the second in the first trilogy. All right. Not a big Star Wars fan either, and I'll tell you why. Star Wars is a film that comes along at the end of the great period of American films. It is the film that turns American films into should I say, spectacles. It is not that well written. It's not that well acted. It is not that well imagined, but it is fun to watch, and it's certainly rah-rah and exciting and interesting. And so, if I'm literally going to have people showing up at my house with protest signs if I give it below an A, but I can't. It's just not. It's not a great movie as I think. What I think of as great movies. I'm going to give it a B as well. Chinatown, directed by Roman Polanski, starring Jack Nicholson, Faye Dunaway. Chinatown is a really good film, and the score is one of the great scores in American filmmaking. But obviously, this is a list that favors modern films because Chinatown is a riff on old films that are better than it was and much more central to American movie making. Films like well, I won't say Casablanca, but The Big Sleep, certainly The Maltese Falcon, which is a far, far better film than Chinatown. But it is a good movie. It has a wonderful interweaving of history with fiction, and again, great score. I'll give this one an A-. Yeah, I'll put it A. Parasite, directed by Bong Joon-ho, which I have seen. I thought it was okay. I give it a C. I thought I thought it was an interesting look. We don't get to see Korea all that much. We don't get to see Korea make, South Korea obviously parodying itself, satirizing the injustices in its society. And so I liked it. I thought it was good. And but it's not a great movie. I'll give it a C. This list is weighted far too much toward the modern. It is bigoted toward the modern. Citizen Kane, directed by Orson Welles. Citizen Kane, which I've watched again only recently, is certainly a brilliant piece of technical work. The filming of it is brilliant. The staging of it is brilliant. And would I put it in the top 10 movies? It's close. I'm going to give this either an A or an S. I would just barely put it in the top 10 movies because of the performances. The script is what gets touted and praised so much, but go back and watch it. You don't really know what is wrong with Kane. You don't know why he is being beleaguered and belabored so much, except for the fact that he's based on Hearst, and Hearst was a conservative, and just like Trump, just like Reagan, just like all the other conservatives, they hated him. They just hated him. And Orson Welles was basically being praised for this, and he never did anything to match it. Well, that's not true. Welles was a fantastic talent. So I'm going to put that in the S category. It's up there, but I always get annoyed because it's not number 1, 2, or 3, but it is a great film, so we'll call it an S. The Dark Knight, directed by Christopher Nolan, wonderful superhero film, probably the best of the superhero films, and certainly a really interesting, fun movie to watch. This is it's a harsh grade to give it a B, but to me that's still a good film, but I'll give it an A-. It's certainly an exciting, deeply, darkly political film with great visuals and probably the best version of Batman there is. Today we're going to rank the greatest video games of all time. Now, the internet has chosen these games, and I'm going to rank them. And I'm going to tell you before I even start that they're all going to be too new. Not all of them, but some of them will be too new. They're probably going to miss some of the great ones that came before, because all of these things are always prejudiced toward modern stuff. So let's take a look. God of War 2018, definite S game. What was so great about God of War? I think it was God of War 2 that may have been a little bit better. I usually don't like sequels, but in video games it's a little different because the technology used to expand pretty quickly. But God of War, what was great about God of War was the mythology, using Greek myths, even though eventually you were just killing things. But Kratos was a very clever character, as I recall. If I'm recalling it properly, he is Ares, the god of war, fallen from his godhead. I think the first one and maybe the third one, I can't really remember which is the one where he just climbs through the darkness at the end. It was so great. But those were really entertaining. And again, most stories of fighting games are not that good. People say they are, but there was just something about the atmosphere and the story and the scenery that just made it beautiful. The fighting was cool. The character was a real tough guy. Very enjoyable. I'll give it an S. The Sims 2000. So this is a game that people love. I'd give it an A. Because I'm not that interested in it, that may be a little unfair. I never found it as gripping as people did. I found it a little bit placid and self-involved. I don't know. It didn't have the challenge that I like in gaming. I know that a lot of people like those games, and I can see how well it was done, but I'm going to give it an A because I just didn't like it that much. Ico. Maybe the best game, next to Super Mario, maybe the best game ever made. One of the best stories, one of the best gameplay, simple, beautiful, of genuine mythology. One of the few games I can say that I was moved by. And just somehow the simplicity of the gameplay was immersive. So you really got involved in this very offbeat story. Ico, fabulous, fabulous game. S and beyond S. Call of Duty 4, liked it, really good. I'll definitely give it an A. I think that I don't want to be too kind to anything, but it was definitely real, very cool, very fun. These are really good games. I mean, I don't want to be boring, but they're really good games. I really like the natural, instinctive movement that came into these games right at this period where you didn't have to pretend these guys were moving through terrain. It really felt like they were moving through terrain, and the battles were exciting and the positions were cool. I really liked it. I'm going to keep it in an A because it wasn't one of the greatest games of all time, but still. If you own a smartphone, a computer, or any internet-connected device, there are thousands of companies out there who know you better than you do. They're called data brokers, and they make billions of dollars a year tracking your activity across the internet. They know what you've bought, everywhere you've been, who you've talked to, your private and personal beliefs, and they package all that up into a profile that they sell to people who want to control you, marketers, activists, and yes, politicians too. So what you can do about it is get off the internet entirely or start protecting yourself with ExpressVPN. Here's something most people don't realize. Your internet provider can see everything you do online, even in incognito mode. That's why I use ExpressVPN. These companies track you through your IP address, but ExpressVPN masks your IP address completely, giving you a new IP address that can't be traced back to you. With the new year and new opportunities coming up, I'm especially grateful for ExpressVPN. Whether I'm checking my bank account from the airport or working from my laptop on the go, I know my data is secure. It's incredibly simple. Just one click and you're protected across all your devices. You can start your 2025 with the peace of mind ExpressVPN gives. Find out how you can get 4 months free by scanning the QR code on screen, clicking the link in the description box below, or by going to expressvpn.com/Andrew Klavan Show. Journey, that was fun. B. I give it a B. It was a puzzle game. I love puzzle games. I like games like Journey that have this kind of dreamlike quality to them, but it wasn't as good as Braid. It wasn't as good as Inside or Limbo. It wasn't as good as that, but it was cool. It was bigger than those, but it wasn't anywhere near as good. Prince of Persia, fantastic. Now, they're listing them, and I think it was the second one where the time element came in, and that was kind of like in Braid, but it was bigger, where you could move time backwards. I can't remember if that was true in the first one or not. These games all kind of blend together in your head after a while, but boy, oh boy, those are good games. I'm really looking forward. My son, Spencer Klavan, no relation, got me the new one. I'm really looking forward to playing that. I haven't yet. Okay, here's where I get into trouble. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. I don't like the Zelda games.
Don't you, motherfucker.
I can only I'm giving it a B. I can only trust that all the people who love it, including Josh from Legal, who actually took the time out. I mean, this is a real sacrifice. Took the time out to stay online and get me a new PlayStation because they were being sold so fast that I couldn't get them. And he actually stayed online and got an alarm and got me this PlayStation. So it is the Josh from Legal Memorial PlayStation. He loves these games. I find them I don't like the animation. I don't like the vastness of the territory. I don't like wandering around forever. Half-Life, in its time, Half-Life was really innovative. I never really loved it, but it's good. It's good. It's an A game. In its moment, it was innovative, but it kind of was very quickly subsumed by things that came after. GTA is, I hate playing bad guys. I hate the fact that they elevate bad guys. I hate the fact that they go to prostitutes and kill prostitutes, and that's fun.
You say it like it's a bad thing.
Shut up, Carl.
I disapprove of them. There's not many works of creativity that I disapprove of, but when the thing about video games, the whole thing that makes them work is that you get into the character because you're playing the character. Didn't like playing that character at all. Gears of War, one of the greats. S game, no question about it. It was the movement. It was really innovative. The instinctive movement, the way you could dodge behind walls, the way you could jump over things. People forget because now all games are like that, but that was one of the first games that was like that. The movement system was unbelievably great. The monsters were great. And I loved all their super masculine characters like Stick and Bob and Brick. They all had these names. I can't remember the name. Rod, whatever masculine name they had. Oh, these deep, deep voices. I loved them. When they finally, I think it was Gears of War 3, 4, I don't remember, they brought a girl in as the lead. It was a snooze.
This isn't about you. It's about me.
Man, shut your...
Super Mario 64, bad choice. Super Mario 3 is the great Super Mario, and Super Mario 1. Super Mario is the greatest game ever made. Even 64, which I in no way thought was the best, was a superior game, but Super Mario 3 is the great one. GoldenEye, I remember, it's funny. I played GoldenEye, and I remember at the time, everybody loved it, and I liked it. I thought it was fun. But I've never known why people loved it so much. I'll give it an A because it was fun, but it didn't just have that absolutely riveting thing that great games have. So I'll give it an A. Resident Evil 4, that was a great game. Resident Evil, I remember playing it with my daughter, and it was so frightening that we had to keep passing the controller back and forth because when you were holding the controller, you were dragged into it. And great game. The Last of Us. Everybody loves The Last of Us. I thought it was okay. Everybody says the story was so great. To me, it was just shooting zombies. I'm not a big zombie fan. Once you got past Resident Evil, I'd had enough. I just thought The Last of Us was more zombies. B+. I'll give it a B+. I didn't love it. I never did. And I hated the sequel. So the first one is Game of Thrones. There's like a lot of them, so I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. Game of Thrones is an S-tier show. Yes, they ruined it. They ruined it because the media started bothering them about the fact that it wasn't fulfilling woke imperatives. So because there were no guns, so girls were being overpowered. It was realistic. But I have to say that, so the last year just sucked. And it was also because he got past the novels and they weren't taking them out of the novels anymore. But the last year sucked. But in the middle, it was one of the most riveting shows ever. There are times when I cared more about who won the Iron Throne than I cared about who won the next election. Just riveting storytelling. And I could talk about it for a long time, but I won't. Breaking Bad, I'll give it an A. I know people just loved that show. What was great about it was the descent of this guy into evil in order to find his manhood. And why that was great was because we were going through this period of the golden age of TV. But almost every great show was about an anti-hero, and that was because feminism had taken away the heroic in men, and they did not know how to make men heroes, because if masculinity is outlawed, only outlaws will be masculine. And what was good about Breaking Bad is it basically told that story. He starts out as a wimp, dictated to by his wife, working way below his talents, being bossed around at work, and by becoming a drug dealer, he actually becomes a man. I am the one who knocks, he takes control of his life, and it showed you why that modern life is despicable, and the only way out of it was criminality. And so now they've run out of those stories, and they yet haven't figured out how to make men men without insulting the feminists. And the way to do it, insult the feminists, because they deserve to be insulted. Girls, crap show, C. That was one of those shows where we were supposed to pretend this ugly, unfunny woman was attractive and funny. One of my favorite moments about Girls was when I took a trip to New York, and I said to somebody, no one's watching Girls. And they said, everyone is watching Girls. Everyone I know is watching Girls. And I said, I know. Everyone you know is watching Girls. No one is watching it. Very low-rated show, not loved, had no effect on the culture, except in New York. In New York, everybody was watching Girls. That woman was ugly and annoying. The sex in it wasn't sexy. It was just, and it wasn't funny. So I'm giving it a C because some people liked it. I guess that means something. Sopranos, S show, one of the best shows ever. Probably the first of those bad boy shows. What are they called? Troubled men shows. And just fantastic acting, and also a genuine moral core. It's what I call silhouetting. By showing you the evil, they showed you the morality. They kind of blacked out all the morality, so it became a silhouette. The lead was fantastic. The acting was fantastic. The writing was absolutely superior. It just got better and better and better. Tough show to watch sometimes because it was very ugly, but absolutely terrific. And sort of, as I say, the pioneer of the bad boy show. Seinfeld, I know people love Seinfeld, and it was certainly the show of its day. I'm going to give it a B.
Nice approach.
And let me just be fair about this. I don't like situation comedy. I just don't find it all that funny or interesting. Seinfeld was a good, interesting show with good performances and humorous. I liked it. I was in England at the time, so I wasn't reading anything about it, but I saw it in England. And I thought, oh, that's funny. It's a show about nothing. And that was kind of what the life was about until the World Trade Center, and then suddenly we found out that nothing don't mean nothing. And and it isn't free. And so then Seinfeld became irrelevant. It's cute. I like it, but I don't think it's a spectacular show. Mad Men. Well, Mad Men is an interesting show. I will give it an S/B. And the reason it's an S/B is it's basically about America up until the time of the Kennedy assassination. After that, the show stinks. And it doesn't stink. It becomes second rate. But in those first episodes are great. It was making a statement about America, not a statement I entirely agree with, but it was a way of looking at America as being a fake. The American way was all an ad man's daydream. And that's a kind of an interesting way to look at things. And then when the Kennedy assassination happened, that was basically the end of the show. And then everything became a dream within a dream, or I thought this happened or it didn't, or I imagined this happened, because the show was over and they just kept going. They didn't know when to let it go, and it ruined the show. So it was an S at first. It really was a spectacular, original, different show. And then after that, it was maybe a B or C. All in the Family. Again, I'm not a big fan of situation comedies. I thought it was all right. It kind of was a B show. Maybe I'll give it a B+ because it was groundbreaking. We'd never seen anything like it before. And with all these shows, it had this character who was supposed to be the bigot, who was supposed to shock us, Archie Bunker, but instead everybody liked him. Whenever you show a guy who tells the truth, he's always the conservative. You're supposed to hate him, like Alec Baldwin in 30 Rock, and he becomes the hero because he's go like, oh, somebody's speaking the truth, and he takes the show away, and then they have to ruin him and make him a villain. I thought it was an okay show, but it wasn't that funny, but it was groundbreaking. The West Wing. My wife loves that show, so maybe I should give it an A. My feeling about Aaron Sorkin is this. He has a style. It's an interesting style. He writes it well. Everything he says is shallow. I've never seen anything I remember watching that one about the army, You Can't Handle the Truth, with Jack Nicholson and all. I saw that as a play before it became a movie, and I thought, wow, that guy has a really interesting style, but he's really shallow. I felt that way about The West Wing. Somebody said The West Wing ruined America because it made people think that the people in Washington could actually solve their problems because they were smart and articulate, because they spoke the way Aaron Sorkin wrote. People did love it. I'll give it what? We'll give it an A because people loved it so much. I was not a big fan. The X-Files, another one that I would give a / rating to. I would say it was an A show that became a B show. The best anthology scary show since The Twilight Zone. Had a really original character. Kind of both the characters were interesting. What was Scully? What was the other one's name? Scully and Mulder. I thought Mulder was really an interesting character. And it was fun. I really liked it. It was an A show, very entertaining. I like scary stories. Some of the stories were genuinely legit scary. It went on a little too long. It became a little too complex and conspiratorial, but it was good for a long time, and then it fell off. The Office American version. It's funny that they made the American version. I like the British version better, but the American version was more likable. It had S episodes. There's no question about it. Again, not probably the wrong guy to ask, but we'll call it an A show because I thought the British one was just uncompromising in how unlikable the character was. Really fun and really funny and stark, but it was not as pleasant to watch as the American one, where Americans like likable characters. It's just a cultural trait, and they made it more likable. But I give it an A because it was really different and funny and had moments that were genuinely laugh out loud funny. So that was fun. That wasn't bad. I didn't have to watch anything on TikTok. My eyes remain unbleached. My heart remains pure. My soul is flying off to heaven. So I guess this better come to an end because I'm obviously dead. If you rate this video S, like and subscribe to The Andrew Klavan Show, wherever you get your podcasts.